the lake party keeping as close as possible to the shore, yet when feasible, wind and weather permitting, we struck off boldly across the numerous small bays which indent the shores of the Tanganika. The shores were beautifully green, the effect of the late rains; the waters of the lake were a faithful reflex of the blue firmament above. The hippopotami were plentiful. Those noticed on this day were coloured with reddish rings round the base of their ears and on the neck. One monster, coming up rather late, was surprised by the canoe making full for him, and in great fright took a tremendous dive which showed the whole length of his body. Half way between the mouth of the Malagarazi and that of the Liuche we saw a camp on shore, that of Mohammed bin Gharib, a Msawahili, who figured often in Livingstone's verbal narrative to me of his adventures and travels as one of the kindest and best of the Moslems in Central Africa. He appeared to me a kindly disposed man, with a face seldom seen, having the stamp of an unusual characteristic on it, that of sincerity. The vegetation of the shores as we proceeded was truly tropical; each curve revealed new beauties. With the soft chalky stone, of which most of the cliffs and bluffs are made, seen as we neared the mouth of the Malagarazi, the surf has played strange freaks. We arrived at the mouth of the Malagarazi about 5 p.m., having rowed 18 miles from Ukaranga. The shore party arrived, very much fatigued, about 5 p.m. The next day was employed in crossing the caravan across the broad mouth of the Malagarazi to our camp, a couple of miles north of the river. This is a river which a civilized community would find of immense advantage for shortening the distance between the Tanganika and the coast. Nearly 100 miles might be performed by this river, which is deep enough at all seasons to allow navigation as far as Kiala, in Uvinza, whence a straight road might be easily made to Unyanyembe. Missionaries also might reap the same benefit from it for conversion tours to Uvinza, Uha, and Ugala. Pursuing our way on the 30th, and rounding the picturesque capes of Kagongo, Mviga, and Kavo, we came, after about 3 hours' rowing, in sight of villages at the mouth of the swift and turbid Rugufu. Here we again had to transport the caravan over the crocodile-infested mouth of the river. On the morning of the 31st we sent a canoe with men to search for food in 2 or 3 villages that were visible on the other side. 4 doti purchased just sufficient for 4 days for our caravan of 48 persons. We then got under way, having informed the Kirangozi that Irimbo was our destination, and bidding him keep as closely as possible to the lake shore, where it was practicable, but if not, to make the best he could of it. From the debouchement of the Rugufu, the head waters of which we had crossed on our random route to Ujiji, to Urimba, a distance of 6 days by water, there are no villages, and consequently no food. The shore party, however, before leaving Ujiji had 8 days' rations, and on this morning 4 days, distributed to each person, and therefore was in no danger of starvation should the mountain headlands, now unfolding, abrupt and steep, one after another, prevent them from communicating with us. It must be understood that such a journey as this had never been attempted before by any Arab or Msawahili, and every step taken was in sheer ignorance of where the road would lead the men ashore. Rounding Kivo's steep promontory, whose bearded ridge and rugged slope, wooded down to the water's edge, whose exquisite coves and quiet recesses might well have evoked a poetical effusion to one so inclined, we dared the chopping waves of Kivo's Bay, and stood direct for the next cape, Mizohazy, behind which, owing to wind and wave, we were compelled to halt for the night. End of chapter 14, part 1.